a host of them there from companies like Johnson & Johnson, GE, Ford, Caterpillar, Lockheed Martin, shaking hands with the president before he sits down to have this roundtable discussion with them. As Christina rightly pointed out, we've seen a huge decline in manufacturing jobs in this country. 5 million manufacturing jobs have been lost since 2000. This is what this president ran on. Athena Jones is with me at the White House. Christina Alessi is back here as we wait for the president to start his remarks. Christina, interestingly, you know what? I think, can we listen into the president, guys?
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to have everybody and some of the great people in the world of business. Many of you I know, many of you I know from reading all of our wonderful magazines and business magazines in particular. So it's an honor to have you with us today. Bringing manufacturing back to America, creating high-wage jobs, was one of our campaign promises and themes, and it resonated with everybody. It was really something what happened. States that hadn't been won in many, many years they came over to our fold. A lot of it had to do with the jobs and other reasons, but jobs. And I'm delivering on everything that we've said. In fact, people are saying they've never seen so much happen in 30 days of a presidency. We've delivered on a lot. And I think Mark can explain, and Mark can probably say some of the things we're doing for the auto industry. We're going to be doing that for many of the industries. As you know, the United States lost 1/3 of our manufacturing jobs since NAFTA. That's an unbelievable number and statistic. And 70,000 factories closed since China joined the WTO. 70,000 factories. So when I used to give that statistic, I used to talk about it, and I always thought it was a typo. I said, it has to be a typo. I tell Wilbur, that can't be right. 70,000. Think of it, 70,000 factories. So you say, what are we doing? My administration's policies and regulatory reform, tax reform, trade policies will return significant manufacturing jobs to our country. Everything's going to be based on bringing our jobs back, the good jobs, the real jobs. They've left, and they're coming back. They have to come back. You've already seen companies such as Intel, Ford, Mark has been great, GM, Walmart, Amgen, Amazon, Fiat. They came the other day. They're going to make a tremendous investment in the country. Carrier and many others announced significant new investments in the United States. For example, Ford is doing $700 million in Michigan, creating 700 new jobs as a vote of confidence. It was actually stated, a vote of confidence. We have many other companies doing the same thing. Carrier, as you know, and I got involved very late, almost like by 2 years late, but many of the jobs that were leaving from Mexico, they're bringing back at least 800 jobs. They're bringing it back. And they actually never got to leave. I have no idea what they did with the plant in Mexico, but we'll have to ask them because it was largely built. General Motors is investing $1 billion in U.S. plants, adding or keeping 7,000 jobs, and is going to be investing a lot more than that over the next fairly short period. Lockheed Martin has they've just announced 1,800 new jobs, and U.S. plants, we're doing a great job, and we started negotiating with them a little bit on the F-35. They've cut their price a little bit. Thank you very much. She's tough, but it worked out well, I think, for everybody. And I think I have to say this, Marilyn, you've gotten a lot of credit because what you did was the right thing, so we appreciate it. You cut a price over $700 million, right? By over $700 million. Do you think Hillary would have asked for $700 million? Oh, boy. I assume you wanted her to win. But you know what? You're going to do great, and you're going to make more planes. It's going to work out the same or better. Walmart announced plans to create 10,000 jobs, and all of those jobs are going to be in the United States. Sprint SoftBank is putting in $50 billion because of our election in the United States over the next 4 years to create 50,000 jobs. They've been terrific, by the way. And we have many others. Many of you are in the room, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. We have many, many other companies, and we're very happy. Today we have 24 CEOs from the largest manufacturing companies in the country and even in the world. They represent, people just in this room, nearly $1 trillion of sales and 2 million employees, large majorities of which are in the United States. They share our commitment to bring manufacturing back and to create jobs in this country, which has been the biggest part of my campaign. I would say the border, big part, military strength, big part, and jobs, big part. I don't want to say which is most important. I guess we always have to say defense is maybe the most important. But many of you take care of our defense. You make great products. Nobody makes the products that we do for military. Nobody. And in fact, a couple of countries who were not allowed to buy from us, I gave them, hello, Jeff. I gave them authorization. You can only buy from us. I want them to buy from us. They were getting planes from other countries because and they're allies, but they're going to be buying from us from now on. And I just want to thank all of my people. My staff has been amazing. Gary, as you know, you all know Gary from Goldman, Gary Cohn, and we're really happy. Just paid $200 million in tax in order to take this job, by the way, which is very much unlike Gary. But he's great. And he'll be criticized by the media because he's getting paid $197,000. They'll say he really wanted that money, which he gave up. I think he gave up. Did you give that up, Gary? I think so, yeah. It was one of those things. But that's right. I want to thank Wilbur has been so fantastic. I've known Wilbur for so long. And he's a great guy, great negotiator, but a very fair negotiator. And he's going to be doing things that the deals we have with other countries are unbelievably bad. We don't have any good deals. In fact, I'm trying to find a country where we actually have a surplus of trade as opposed to everything's a deficit. With Mexico, we have $70 billion in deficits, trade deficits. And it's unsustainable. We're not going to let it happen. Can't let it happen. We're going to have a good relationship with Mexico, I hope. And if we don't, we don't. But we can't let that happen. $70 billion in trade deficits, and that doesn't include the drugs that pour across the border, like water. So we can't let that happen. With China, we have close to a $500 billion trade deficit. So we have to do something. I spoke to the president. I spoke to many people. We're going to work on that very, very hard, and we're going to do things that are the proper things to do. But I actually said to my people, find a country where we actually do well. So far, we haven't found that country. It's just losses with everybody, and we're going to turn that around. I want to thank Jared Kushner, who's been so involved in this, and all of my guys. We have a great team. We have a team of all-stars, and we've really been given credit for that. Right now, Rex, who, as you know, he's in Mexico. I said, that's going to be a tough trip because we have to be treated fairly by Mexico. That's going to be a tough trip. But he's over there with General Kelly, who's been unbelievable at the border. You see what's happening at the border. All of a sudden, for the first time, we're getting gang members out. We're getting drug lords out. We're getting really bad dudes out of this country, and at a rate that nobody's ever seen before. And they're the bad ones. And it's a military operation because what has been allowed to come into our country, when you see gang violence that you've read about like never before and all of the things, much of that is people that are here illegally. And they're rough and they're tough, but they're not tough like our people. So we're getting them out. I thought what we could do is maybe we'll start with Ken on my left and we'll go around the room and introduce yourselves to the press. Lots of media. One thing, we have lots of media. How are you? Treats me, that's one that treats me very nicely. One of the few. Hi. And we'll just go around the room, and then we'll talk privately without the press, and we're going to figure out how to bring many, many millions of jobs more back to the United States. Okay? Ken, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to be here. Ken Frazier from Merck & Co. Inc.
Donald Trump there talking to a roundtable of CEOs in what was described, what was supposed to be a listening session, and that's what you're hearing now. The CEOs going around the table here and introducing themselves, and Donald Trump just gave some comments there covering a few different topics. So I want to bring in our panel now. We have CNN political analyst and Washington Post political reporter Abby Phillip, CNN political commentator and Republican strategist Doug Heye, and CNN senior congressional reporter Manu Raju. Okay, so first to you, Abby, as you're watching this, it seemed that there was this, maybe not surprising, level of comfort that Donald Trump has with CEOs. I mean, he's ribbing them over the taxes they pay and their salaries, and this seems to be a place where he is very comfortable as he is asserting these claims that he is going, and a big promise, going to bring back jobs.
Yeah, he certainly is. I mean, this is a place where he's surrounded by people who he's known for a long time, many of these CEOs, both inside and outside of his cabinet. And it's also one of the reasons why the White House tries to schedule the president's day so that almost every day he has a meeting like this, where he's sitting around a table with a bunch of people who are job creators, and he can talk about what he's doing to bring back jobs, to bring back factories. And it basically is 15 minutes a day where he gets this sort of media coverage here on CNN and elsewhere for his jobs agenda, which is often the most focused that the president is in his day. And it is something that I think that the White House probably would like to do more of, but as we all know, there are a lot of other things that tend to come up, and sometimes the president himself is the one sort of changing the subject to something completely different.
Yeah, speaking of, I mean, he said there, Doug, that he was saying, do you think that would have happened if Hillary had been elected? He always seems to be looking back to the election.
Yeah, I would advise them not to keep looking back, not to keep talking about Hillary Clinton. Really, the campaign is yesterday's news. They won fair and square. Keep focusing on these optics that are very good optics for Donald Trump. This is a safe space that he's in right now with all these CEOs. It's a very different room than, say, if it were filled with members of Congress and senators. He can talk to these CEOs on their level because he's been there, and the optics that we see, the visuals that we see, show Donald Trump doing the job of president, trying to create jobs, which fits perfectly with what his message is. They should keep doing this as often as possible.
Doug, how does he do that if you're looking at the numbers on automation really being the jobs destroyer? It's not, you know, he talks about China joins the WTO and then look what happens to all of these jobs. Well, a lot of those were lost because of automation. Those are jobs that he can't bring back. Isn't that a promise that he's in danger of being unable to keep?
I think it is a problem for him that clearly automation has changed the world in so many positive ways. But if you go to communities in this country where the jobs are gone and they may not be coming back, that's a real problem for Trump. The benefit that he has, though, because he's such a different politician than we've ever seen before, Trump, and I heard this, I was just in North Carolina for the past few days, and the one thing I heard several times was people saying, well, at least Donald Trump is trying. He gets a big benefit of the doubt from his supporters in a way that we haven't seen in the past.
That he gets a benefit for trying. So, Manu, you heard Doug there saying Donald Trump is more comfortable with CEOs than maybe talking to members of Congress. If anyone is comfortable talking to members of Congress, that would be Manu Raju. So I'm curious, you know, when you talk to Republicans, and they obviously are hoping to push tax reform through with Donald Trump. They think that's going to bring jobs. Are they worried, though, that he overpromises and that they may not be able to deliver in the way that he's saying that he and really Congress will?
There is some of that concern for sure, particularly when you add things like building the wall on the border with the U.S. and Mexico and getting Mexico to pay for it, a central campaign promise, but one in which a lot of Republicans are not fully on board with. You add that to the pretty ambitious agenda. They realize how difficult it is to legislate. And the things that he was talking about in this room are still top priorities of Hill Republicans, including tax reform, a big push. There's going to be a big push for tax reform, but rewriting the tax code is an incredibly hard endeavor. It's going to spawn a huge fight on Capitol Hill, not just with Democrats, but within the Republican Party, and not to mention repealing and replacing Obamacare. That is going to happen, start next month, but expect that to take months and months and months.
Sure. All right. You guys stay with me. We're going to listen a little more to Donald Trump talking to CEOs at the White House.
Thank you, Reed. Thank you also. Thank you. Say it again, please.
Inge Thulin, 3M.
Yes.
Good morning.
Great company.
Good morning, Mr. President. Great to be back. It's Michael Dell with Dell Technologies.
Hi, Michael. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Mr. President. Phoebe Novakovic, General Dynamics.
Great.
Good morning, Mr. President. Juan Luciano, Archer Daniel Smith.
Great companies. Great. Jared. So, Jared, maybe I'll let you take over for a little while, and we'll then, we're going to then go through the room very, very carefully. We're going to find out how we bring more jobs back. And thank you to the press and the media. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you later. Thank you very much.
All right, this is the part where the press gets kicked out of the room. Manu, Abby, a part that we are all so familiar with. Let's bring back our panel to discuss this. And something that I found really fascinating there, Abby, was he turned to his right and said to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit. I mean, that says a lot about his role in this White House.
It really does. I mean, Jared Kushner is very much involved in the sort of the breadth and the scope of his portfolio is a little bit surprising because it's not just some of these domestic issues, economic issues, it's also international issues. And the president is turning to him to be the sort of mediator and the arbiter of some of these meetings. And Jared Kushner himself is a businessman, and like his father-in-law, has a real estate background, has a media background. So they have a lot in common. There's a lot of trust there. You know, and to Doug's point, you know, the president is in a place now where he can have real conversations about job creation, and in some cases it doesn't really matter whether the outcomes are as rosy as he makes them seem. What matters more is that he's projecting that he's doing something about the problem, and for some of these CEOs, when they're coming out of these meetings, they're saying we actually do appreciate having a seat at the table and a platform to explain what we need in order to be successful. So, you know, the president is giving them a lot of these avenues, like I said, virtually every single day to do this.
Yeah. He gets credit for trying. That's what Doug said people are saying, certainly in North Carolina. Okay, stay with me, Manu, Doug, and Abby.